A war has been brewing in Europe. After the brutal trench warfare of World War I, every country was left battle-scarred, shell-shocked, and ready to move on with the future. The newly developed weapons caused a new type of war to be fought: total war. At the same time, radical ideas began to rise out of the disparity of the people in countries like Germany and Italy. Hitler and Mussolini respectively rose up with the ideas of socialism and fascism as ways to restore what had previously become a dysfunctioning society. Adolf Hitler had realized that amongst the depression, the way to pay off the last war was to create a new one. Hitler invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939 with a new wartime tactic he called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. America tried to keep out of the war generally, but as we see, this of course had to change. We begin our story here with the attack by the Japanese forces on the Hawaiian Pearl Harbor naval base.
Du meine Arbeit für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe. Nein, 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 nein.
Come in, boys, your show's on the radio.
We'll be inside in a second, Mom.
You boys better come quick. I hear they're saying it's really important.
Alrighty, we're coming.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking to you tonight at a very serious moment in our history. The Cabinet is convening and the leaders in Congress are meeting with the President. The State Department and Army and Navy officials have been with the President all afternoon. In fact, the Japanese ambassador was talking to the President at the very time that Japan's airships were bombing our citizens in Hawaii and the Philippines and sinking one of our transports loaded with lumber on its way to Hawaii.
But Dad is there.
I know what we need to do. Mother, will you let us fight? I love you, Mom.
So why do you boys want to join the armed forces?
Our father was stationed on the Arizona, and we want to avenge him.
I'm sorry to hear that. Are y'all American citizens?
Yes, sir.
Prove it.
I'm old enough to own this.
Okay then, I guess you're over 18. Very good. Welcome to the U.S. military. Shoot.
Randall, wake up.
Shut up.
The Major will have our heads if we're late.
Alright, I'm coming.
Y'all are the cream of the crop, the top tier of our soldiers now. Sadly, your expertise would be better suited to two separate regiments. This decision came from up top, you know, the big guy. I had nothing to do with it. You both will be compensated for your separation, and I will make sure your correspondence has priority over any other mail. But there's really nothing I can do about it.
We have to run. We're storming the beaches in a sneak attack. Codename Operation Overlord. We already launched the deception campaign, so the Germans didn't know where we are invading. All right, boys, run in there on my cue. Ready, go!
We didn't know it then, but this was one of the largest amphibious assaults of all time. Also, this battle was the turning point in the war, where Germany began to realize they might not win the war, and the Allies' spirit soared.
About 250,000 German troops are trying to push back. Can't let them.
Get the cover!
I'm sorry to say, us allies have lost a lot of ground. 250,000 Germans and 1,000 tanks grossly overpowered our soldiers. Some of the German soldiers even dressed up as American soldiers and massacred our troops.
By Christmas, the German offensive had advanced 50 miles into Allied territory and forced 4,000 Americans to surrender in a day. This compelled Allied Forces Commander General Dwight David Eisenhower to send reinforcements, so he sent 500,000.
Oh my god, it's freezing. These conditions are terrible.
Aye, I can barely see 10 feet in front of me eyes. Can you think of a single other battle throughout history where the temperature drops below zero?
I can't tell you, I'm no expert, but it's pretty cold.
Yes, we're finally pushing back. The Germans thought they had a victory, but we snatched it away from them.
With help from President Eisenhower's troops, the Germans no longer were pushing the Allies out of Belgium. By January 25th, 1945, the Germans were pushed back to their initial point. This battle allowed the Allies to continue pressing into Germany. The Germans lost over 100,000 troops who would prove to be irreplaceable in their defense.
Well, this is it, boys. This is where we all finally defeat Hitler in his own stronghold. Wait, who are you?
We are Russian soldiers under Stalin, and we'll crush Berlin and leave it under Soviet rule.
You can't do that.
We already have. We have 1 million troops here that are currently invading Germany as we speak. I'm sorry, but you were just too slow. Stalin wanted to ensure that Berlin was under Soviet rule, not American. His haste caused him to make poor battlefield decisions, and 70,000 of the soldiers died to Germany's 90,000 soldiers. However, the Red Army still grossly outmatched the Germans. This was the battle in which Hitler's wife killed herself, ultimately causing Hitler to kill himself. This battle led to the end of the war, but the Russians' capture of Berlin was what led to the distrust of the West in Berlin, and the beginning of the Cold War. Not only were the people fighting overseas, but there were people fighting back home too. The wives of men going out to fight were taking the men's jobs and supplying our boys overseas. Rosie the Riveter, a popular icon at the time, being a strong woman, represents the time of victory gardens, rationing, industry growth, and hard work.
The Japanese are trying to get control of the Coral Sea by invading Port Moresby. We intercepted their planes, so now we know what they're doing, and they don't know we know.
The Japanese are landing in the area. The planes from my aircraft carriers are attacking them as we speak.
Look, Admiral, the planes from both sides are missing their shots like crazy. Yes, finally, they've hit one. The Japanese are retreating.
The Japanese retreat left a strategic victory to the U.S., which greatly helped the U.S. during the Battle of Midway.
So, you seen that new PewDiePie video that came out?
Yeah, man, it was pretty epic. It made me feel like my brain was quite big.
Man, my brain is so big, I can't even begin to tell you how big my brain is. Hey, what's that sound? What?
My ears are picking up a certain frequency.
Nah, man, it's probably just that alcohol we've been drinking.
Yeah, because we're legal adults.
Yeah.
The Japanese made a stealthy attack, but Allied intelligence was too fast for the Japanese to be able to attack without being met by American forces who fought them off valiantly. The Battle of Midway was a major turning point for the American and Allied forces to topple the rising sun.
I wonder what's happening in Africa.
I've been shooting for 3 weeks straight! I haven't moved!
Our job here is to liberate the people, so they've been through a lot, so be kind with them, be gentle.
Please help me, Mr. American. It's been horrible in here. They barely feed us and make us work all day. It's terrible. Don't believe.
It's gonna be alright, son.
The Holocaust is not a light subject. If anything, it is probably one of the least light of all subjects. At the beginning of the war, there were 9 million Jews in Europe. By the end of the war, there were only 3 million. The Germans had single-handedly wiped out 1/3 of a race of people. They chose to do so in unspeakable methods. They never gave them what they needed and worked the poor people to death. Hitler believed that the, quote, final solution was to rid the earth of the Jewish race because they were the cause of all the problems he had. The Allies, when they arrived, had not heard of such a thing and saw single-handedly what Hitler could do to people. The Allies liberated all of the concentration camps where the Jews were being held and brought the remaining ones back to safety. On May 8, 1945, the Nazi forces were forced to surrender, and thus marked VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, a day of celebration for the end of the terrible war. With a less than optimal solution to the Japanese problem, the American forces dropped the first and only nuclear bombs in war on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This caused for the Japanese forces to surrender on August 15, 1945, also known as Victory over Japan Day or VJ Day.